So we are good to go. You bring us in.
Okay. Well, then it's the Ben show.
Yeah. Oh, is your phone on silent?
Yeah. Hello and welcome everybody to Scream Scene, the horror movie podcast, where we watch every horror movie ever made in chronological order, and then we rank them from best to worst. My name's Ben.
And I'm Sarah.
Thank you so much for listening to us today. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Got a haircut. This weekend was full of seeing friends. So yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. I think a little bit depressed today.
Oh.
But like, you know, it's tax season. The state of the world, yada yada.
Yeah.
I did get to see my friends a couple days ago. I'm watching an anime called Frieren with a couple of friends, and it's really good.
It is very good.
Yeah. But today, I am excited to watch another Mexican horror movie with you.
Yeah, what are we watching today?
Today, Sarah, we are watching ESPEJO de la Bruja from 1962, directed by Chano Urueta. That is The Mirror of the Witch, would be the literal translation there. I think it's usually referred to as The Witch's Mirror in English.
Must be the mirror of the witch.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. So we're back in Mexico. This is another horror picture from director Chano Urueta. It's produced by Abel Salazar. It's coming to us from Alameda Films. So we've seen a lot of this kind of movie from this
specific person.
Yeah.
And group.
Yeah, exactly. The last one of these Abel Salazar produced movies we saw was El Mundo de los Vampiros in, I believe, episode 328. It is currently ranked number 300 on the list.
Yeah, they've had diminishing returns, but Ureta as a director has always been impressive.
Yeah, the last Ureta directed film we saw was actually La Bruja in 1954.
Is this like a follow-up for him? Like he's like, here's the sequel.
I don't think so. I think it's unrelated.
Okay.
He has directed almost 33 films in the intervening time.
Yeah, so he probably doesn't even remember. You know, when you have so many things under your belt, you're just like, yeah, this is just another project. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think so. I believe this is going to be the last straight horror picture that he does before he kind of moves into the luchador subgenre. We're not quite there yet, but like Mexican horror films are going to get taken over by, I mean, really it's El Santo coming in and fighting monsters, and that sort of changes everything, and everyone starts doing the same thing. Ureta doesn't do any of the El Santo pictures, but he does do a lot of the Blue Demon series of pictures, which is just like another luchador doing the same kind of stuff. And that's kind of when Mexican horror moves into like its, you know, camp phase, essentially.
Every culture has its horror comedy versions.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as I mentioned, this picture is produced by Abel Salazar, but it does not star him, so we won't be seeing him in this movie. But we do have, as the lead actress, his third wife, Rosita Arenas, who he married in 1960.
Okay.
She was born in 1933 and made her film debut at age 17 in the 1950s. The 50s seems to have been like the main era of her career, but today she is 92 years old.
Dang.
And she is one of the last surviving divas of the golden age of Mexican cinema.
Amazing. Wow.
Her co-star here is Armando Calvo, a Puerto Rican actor with a long career in Spanish, Mexican, and Italian cinema. He was born in 1919 to a pair of actors, and so they kind of raised him from a young age to be an actor. When they moved to Spain, he was the highest paid child actor in Madrid by age 12.
Wow.
He worked in theater and film with over 100 credits to his name. He won some Best Acting awards in the 40s and 50s. This movie comes about midway through his career, and it's before a string of 1960s spaghetti western appearances for him, and he passed away in 1993.
So if he's in some spaghetti westerns, do you think I might know his face?
I looked up which spaghetti westerns he was in, and I don't think there are any that you've seen.
Okay.
So now, one of the things in researching this movie that I have been struggling with since the beginning is there seems to be some confusion online about when this movie came out.
Oh.
It gets referred to as both a 1960 film and a 1962 film. And without being able to read Spanish and without access to some of the like Mexican sources that people are citing, and, you know, not just websites that I can like put through Google Translate, but like books and things that I don't have access to. It's really difficult for me to suss out what's what here. I have an educated guess based on the available evidence. The movie has a theatrical release date of July 12th, 1962, which is listed on its IMDb page. And it's also listed as a 1962 film by Indicator, the home video label that put out the Blu-ray release for this film. However, there is an editor on Wikipedia who is very insistent that this is a 1960 film. There's a footnote after the date 1960 on Wikipedia, which says, as attributed by many sources, and then gives 4 more footnotes within the footnotes for those sources. But basically, these sources come down to Alameda Film, the production company. Their own website database refers to this as 1960.
But that could just be when it was produced.
So that's what I'm thinking, because it's not like a Mexican release date, American release date thing, because the American release date dubbed into English wasn't until 1968. I think what I'm seeing, like without access again to some of these film texts, the conclusion I'm drawing from the evidence I'm seeing is that whenever the 1960 date is referenced, there's no specific date. It's always just like, it's from 1960. The 1962 date always has this July 12th release date associated with it. So I suspect exactly what you just said, that it was filmed in 1960, and thus you can say, oh, it's from 1960, but you can't say exactly when, and it was released in 1962. We've seen that a couple times now with some of these low-budget horror movies, stuff getting held for a couple years for whatever reason. So the fact that like the Blu-ray release went with the 1962 date is one of the reasons why like I kind of waited till 1962 on it, and the fact that I have that exact date, the July 12th, 1962.
Okay.
As mentioned, of course, there is a Blu-ray release for this. And one really nice thing since we started this podcast is that all of these old Mexican horrors are starting to get nice home video releases in North America on Blu-ray. Most of them are coming from Indicator, which is the home video boutique label for Powerhouse Films. They've put out like Blu-rays for La Llorona and Phantom of the Convent and like all of these, Dos Monjes and all of these movies. And it's just so nice because like, although they didn't come out in time for us for the podcast for those early films, the fact that these are finally getting these nice releases means we aren't going to have to go with like YouTube, Google auto translate for this movie.
Yeah. And I mean, we're a collector household, but I think it's important to be able to document history and assets like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So this film is in a box set from Indicator with 4 others. It's called Mexican Macabre, and it's like 4 films from Alameda Films. There's, I think, Black Pit of Dr. M is in it, and a couple of movies that we're going to be seeing a little later down the line. One more film a little later. Oh, it's another Urueta film, actually, later in 1962. And then a new version of La Llorona from 1963. So those are the 4 films that are in the box set with this.
Okay, cool. Well, folks, hopefully you can find a copy of either that box set, maybe a library has it, or you can find a way to watch this elsewhere. You're going to hear a brief musical interlude, and when we come back, we will discuss The Witch's Mirror, aka El Espejo de la Bruja, from 1962, directed by Chano Urueta.
See you on the other side, everybody.
Welcome back to Scream Scene. We just finished watching El Espejo de la Bruja from 1962, directed by Chano Urueta. Ben, first thoughts about The Witch's Mirror?
Well, the first thing I got to say is I have to make a correction.
Oh.
I got the name of the movie wrong, at least the Spanish name, because it's El Espejo de la Bruja, not El Espreja. Like, it's El Espejo.
Espejo.
Not Spreja.
I got my notes from Ben.
No, for sure. And if you put El Espejo de la Bruja into Google Translate, it'll tell you that means the witch's mirror. But it's El Espejo de la Bruja, as you can see by watching the film or looking at its poster or not being half asleep when you do your notes. And I think Google Translate's lying to me in the way that Google has started to do, that way that Google enjoys lying nowadays. Because if you just put El Espreja, just that phrase, into Google Translate, it's the couple, whereas El Espejo is the mirror. So I think I've been saying the witch's couple this whole time. Anyways, apologies on getting that wrong. El Espejo de la Bruja. What did I think of this movie, Sarah?
Yeah.
I thought this was sort of like a stew of reheated leftovers.
Oh, Ben, Witch's Brew was right there.
God damn it.
God damn it. I enjoyed this. I thought it was quite fun. I agree. It's a bit of a hodgepodge, but I think they pull it off.
Yeah, it's fun. It's an enjoyable little watch. The short running time helps it.
Yes, it does.
but it is very much made up of parts.
Yeah. Well, why don't I tell the folks at home what those parts are?
For sure.
When we open, we get a Hexen-style history of witches explanation that kind of clarifies for us that the strongest of all witches use a mirror to focus their power. Fast forward to 18-something, and we see a woman named Elena, and she is asking her godmother, Sarah, who's a witch, and also the housekeeper, for advice. She says that death walks these halls and death is coming for Elena at the hands of her husband, Eduardo. But this is all fated, so Sarah is unable to protect her goddaughter. So indeed, the husband, Eduardo, poisons Elena with a glass of milk, so she dies. Sarah does use her magic to communicate with the spirit of Elena and allow Elena to begin haunting the home to take her revenge. Eduardo, sometime later, but not a long time later, gets married to a woman named Deborah. They seem to have known each other back when Eduardo was still married, but Deborah just kind of like conveniently doesn't ask about how Elena died. Just that, oh, your wife conveniently died as we were falling in love. How lucky for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because she is like purposefully avoiding that and is just like, I'm just happy for me. But I don't know. Anyways.
There's a lot of exposition that's not given in this movie.
Now, in this Gothic castle, we see some familiar haunting activities take place, like the piano playing on its own, strange drafts here and there, the daisies that Deborah brings in, like dying before her very eyes. And it kind of comes to a head when Elena appears in a mirror in her old room, and Deborah screams and faints. And Ed, as he's rushing in, grabs a gas lamp that is conveniently passed to him by Sarah, and gets so mad at the appearance of Elena's ghost in the mirror that he throws the gas lamp, breaks the mirror, but as the fire spreads, Deborah gets burned up. Her face and her hands are completely burned. And now we go from the Gothic haunting portion of the show to the Mexican eyes without a face mad scientist portion of the show. Eduardo has hired a man named Gustavo as his assistant, and together they have been stealing corpses from the morgue and funeral homes, thus getting the attention of the police. They have been doing skin grafts to basically try to repair Deborah's face. Now, when Gustavo's neighbor, who happened to be a really good piano player, dies from like a heart attack, he's like, "Hey boss, I saw this girl, she just recently died, and she has like the best hands. Like, you'll really want these hands." Eduardo takes a look and he's like, "Yeah, dude, definitely want these hands." So they go to steal her body after it's been buried. But surprise, she wasn't dead. She had just gone into a cataleptic shock coma thing. She faints after she comes out of the coffin, screams and faints. And Gustavo's like, "Oh shit." And Eduardo is like, "Oh, perfect." How great is this for me? I now have a live patient to transplant stuff from. And no one's going to go looking for her because she's already been declared dead. At this point, Gustavo's like, "Dude, I'm out." This is too much for me. And Sarah ends up convincing Gustavo that in order to save his soul, he should go to the police. Meanwhile, Sarah is seen using magic to kind of do some spooky things around the house. And at this point with the hands, so Eduardo has cut the hands off of the live patient, and they're just hanging out on a tray while he goes to get his wife. So Sarah comes in and she summons Elena's ghost, takes the new hands, throws them into the fire, and Elena leaves her hands behind to be transplanted. Sarah also has a plan for, as she says, the dead to return from whence they came on a Wednesday night full moon. So the transplant to Deborah's body is a success. And these hands immediately tried to strangle Eduardo. No chill. So he goes on a walk to kind of clear his head. Deborah goes to her room to kind of chill out. And we see that Gustavo has made it to the cops. So Deborah, driven by Sarah's spirits, ends up heading back down to the lab and discovers the bodies. She has not known where these skin grafts or these hands were coming from. Kind of in the same way that she turned a blind eye to where the wife went in the first place. She turned a blind eye to where these things were coming from. And discovering the bodies, she kind of freaks out. Eduardo happens to be coming in at this time, and he tries to calm her down, following her basically into a storage room to try to convince her that, like, no, trust me, with all of this, it proves my love to you, you're going to be beautiful, like, everything will be okay. And it's at this point that Gustavo arrives with the cops. So, as I said, Eduardo and Deborah are in an old storage room. Sarah uses her magic to magically rebuild the broken mirror. And Eduardo takes Deborah to the mirror and says, like, "Look, like, you're going to be beautiful." And he takes some big scissors and cuts off her face bandages. And truly, she looks completely as she did before the accident. And she's so relieved. She's so thankful. And they embrace. And then Deborah's ghost hands from Elena.
Yeah.
Elena's ghost hands on Deborah's body take the scissors and stab Eduardo in the back. These are like big fabric scissors.
Mm-hmm.
So he like dies, and she is kind of freaking out. That's when Deborah then looks again at the mirror, and we hear Sarah chanting about how, it's Wednesday and it's the full moon. The dead must return to whence it came. And Deborah's hands fall off to reveal her burned hands, and her face fades into her burned face.
The dead, what is dead will go back to the dead, I think that's phrased. Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping to see like the skin grafts literally fall off, but we get what we can get. It's at this time that the cops arrive into the storage room. They rush in. Gustavo is with them. And so Elena's ghost hands had fallen off, right? Mm-hmm. And we see them kind of like crawling on the floor like the Thing. Elena's hands grab the scissors from Eduardo's body and then climb up Gustavo's coat and then stab him. So he might have saved his soul, but he's dead for sure. And then we see Sarah in her room with all of the witch paraphernalia. And she just kind of like throws up her hands and like disappears as if it's like, my job here is done. Sarah, away. And that's the end.
Yep. So as you can see, this movie has a lot in it. Its running time is like 76 minutes.
And I think it's at like the half-hour mark that we turn into the Eyes Without a Face situation.
Yeah, it's like this movie is sort of Rebecca, but with ghosts for a bit. As you said, kind of classic Gothic horror. Very similar to what we just saw in Horrible Secret of Dr. Hitchcock. And then it turns into Eyes Without a Face. And then obviously it also turns into Hands of Orlac right at the end there.
Yeah.
There's a lot being taken from other horror movies. There's, the poisoned milk. There's all tons of little details. Like this really is just stuff you've seen in other movies remixed and reheated. I think part of why it's fun is you're never sure what crazy fucking thing is going to happen next.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's Eyes Without a Face, but it's Eyes Without a Face with a witch in it,
Yeah. And it feels they do the work to make it logical for why A goes to B goes to C.
Yes, but there's also a lot of stuff that isn't explained in any way in this movie because
that's the magic, Ben.
No, like stuff that's just it is that way because it's treated like there's stuff that's just part and parcel of horror movies. Like we don't need to explain this because you've already seen it in other horror movies. Like for instance, Eduardo, who we do not learn until like midway through the movie is a medical doctor, although there was like one shot of him in a lab coat at the very start of the movie, so you could maybe guess that. But he lives in a castle. Like it's not a mansion. It's not like a big house. We never see the outside of it because this movie is too cheap for exteriors, but it's a castle. Like there's stonework and parapets and shit. Why does Eduardo have a castle? Who fucking knows? It's because Frankenstein has one. It's because he becomes a mad scientist later. And mad scientist, it just, when you get your degree in mad science, they hand you a castle. One that has secret labs behind hidden doors with owls hanging out in them.
It's free real estate, Ben.
Right. What year is it?
That's a big thing, yeah. Because his suit is modern.
Mm-hmm. Men in this movie dress modern, women dress Victorian.
Yeah, I mean, like even Deborah's outfit is like, I mean, if you squint, maybe it's on like the more modern side of the Victorian era, but like it's still pretty dated.
Yeah, no. All the women dress like it's the 1800s. The men dress like it's the 60s. It might be someone going like, well, they had suits in Victorian time, so it's good enough or something. We never see we never see like cars or anything that like suggests like confirms modern, right? Yeah. So it feels like it's maybe Victorian times, but like because we don't really see exteriors, it's really unclear what year it is. It's also really unclear like where we're supposed to be. Like people have like, is this Spain or is this Mexico or
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It never comes up. There's just like, a lot of stuff that you just accept because you've seen it in other movies. Like the hands.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that like, I love that in like actual Hands of Orlac movies, it's always like, this is an extremely out there, risky, crazy procedure that might not work. Same with like the skin grafts and Eyes Without a Face, right? But here, this movie's like, no, you've seen those movies. So like, whatever, he just puts the hands on her. You know how it works. Even
just
though like,
smush them together. It's like Play-Doh.
right. That's how the skin grafts are treated.
Yeah.
Even though like also like these are Elena's ghost hands made flesh. Like, yeah, there's a lot of like, don't ask questions about it.
But I think like it's not asking you to make sense of how things are going. We're just here for the fun ride.
Totally. And that's sort of what I mean by like, it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's that it's relying on you've seen these movies before.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
It's like you don't ask why this dude lives in a castle because like Frankenstein lived in a castle. So like, sure, you know,
yeah.
It's that kind of rationale.
The things that are done really, really well here, I think the cinematography is good,
mm-hmm.
but what really stands out to me is the way that they had the mise en scène and the special effects working together to really sell them.
Yeah.
Even though, like, if you know how they're done, like, it's pretty obvious, but it's also like, if you don't know, like, that looks pretty dang good.
They do a really good job with like simple things like camera angles and lighting to position things such that when they do need to do like an optical effect, they work really well. Like there's a lot of really good dissolves and like superimpositions and like optical effects like that, especially with the mirror and the ghost and stuff. And then with like the beheadings and the behandings, they do a lot of they do this thing where like they'll put a lot of like blood on like someone's wrist or sleeve or collar or something, and then put their hands in their pockets or their head in like shadows or something.
So it looks like it's matted out. And like the beheaded body, for example, is just in the back. So you're not getting a chance to see it up close. So it looks real.
Yeah, like, I don't know. There's just a lot of little things with like the gore and the gruesomeness that is really well done. It's hard to explain, but you're totally right in that like it's like stagecraft tricks almost, but they work really well because they were very careful about how they shot everything.
And I feel like it also allowed them to do a level of gore that felt like it was pushing the envelope from what we've seen from Mexico so far.
For sure. I think the witch stuff is fun.
Yeah, I agree. Though you did have some qualms with the names of spirits that she was invoking.
Okay, so there's some weird shit going on here. Of course, you have to remember that, you know, Mexico is a very Catholic country.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like there's like an assumed Catholicism on the part of like an audience here. Sarah, who has a Hebrew name, refers to a bunch of different spirits who she invokes in her witchcraft, which like that's how witchcraft works, right? You get magic from demons and stuff. And some of them are like standard devil names. She talks about Lucifer. She also uses names like Satanachia and Lucifugal, which like, you know, that's Lucifer, that's Satan. We got it. She also pulls out like some Old Testament demon names like Belial and Abaddon, which Old Testament demons are really just like ancient Mesopotamian gods that like rivals to the Hebrews worshipped. So they got characterized as demons.
Yeah.
But then she also calls out to Adonai and Elohim, which like Adonai is just Hebrew for Lord and Elohim is just Hebrew for God. They're just several of the various names for God in Hebrew. It's just a thing that a Jewish person would call God, right? It would be like if I had like a weird wizard in a story who was like, I shall call upon the forces of the demon Allah. Like,
yeah,
it's
not the first time that we've seen Judaism and witchcraft conflated. Like,
no, it isn't.
It's been all the way back to like the silent German movies.
Yeah, this is why I bring up that this is like from a very Catholic country.
Yeah.
Is like the fact that like to me it's really weird because it's like Christianity is a spin-off from Judaism. Like their Bible is part of your Bible. Like those words are in your Bible referring to God. But when you think back to like the way that Jewish people were treated in, you know, medieval European society, and kind of the way that they were definitely like a minority, you have this thing where Christians would see Jewish people saying stuff and doing stuff that didn't make sense to them, and they didn't really understand what Jewish people were or what the deal was, so they just were like, oh, you guys are witches and wizards, I guess. But it's just very weird here, also because who are the real, I mean, on a moral, cosmological, this is a Catholic country sort of level, who are the bad guys here?
I was going to bring that up, because Sarah is wreaking revenge on behalf of someone who truly was wronged, gets that revenge to the point where Gustavo, he didn't kill anyone, but he was stealing bodies. He gets killed.
Right.
But also when Sarah started to be like, Gustavo, you need to save your soul, I was like, Sarah, who do you work for?
Well, also, like, Sarah's going to all of this effort to avenge Elena.
Yeah.
Elena is Sarah's goddaughter, which, like, that godparent godchild relationship is very important to Catholics. Like, that's a strong religious sort of responsibility. And so, like, Sarah is practicing witchcraft in the context seemingly of like still being a Catholic. Like, she still is like, no, Gustavo, we have to save your soul. Like, Elena, you're my godchild, so I am like bound by oath to Jesus to, like, you know, avenge you. I'm going to call on like the Jewish God to like give me the deets I need to like send some like hell demons to like do my bit. Like, she is playing all the cards here.
And she's going to magically turn into a cat at one point.
Yes.
That's fun. She uses her magic powers to make an elevator.
Yeah, that does happen. But like, yeah, the movie starts, as you said, with the Hexen style, like, here's the history of witchcraft thing. And that intro like really goes out of its way to be like, the practitioners of the occult arts and sciences were the worst fucking people ever. They ate babies. They murdered, you know.
Truly.
Like,
they truly are saying this.
Yeah, like, they would kill children before they had a chance to be baptized. They were the worst. Like, they're super fucking evil. But then the story is like this witch godmother using her witch powers to avenge this like innocent. So the whole reason Eduardo even like kills Elena is so that he can be with Deborah. It's implied that like he's already in love with her, but like the only source of tension in their like actual marriage, like why Eduardo has gotten sick of Elena, who's like a beautiful blonde, is just that like Elena plays this one piece of music on the piano every night and he's sick of it. Like, he's just gotten bored of her, basically.
Yeah.
So Eduardo,
we all know Eduardo is not a good person.
Right. So Eduardo's a terrible person. Although he seems to at least love Deborah more than Elena, since he doesn't just ditch her when she gets a burned up face. He's like, no, I will kill women to restore your beauty. So like the witch here is the good guy.
Yeah.
But then the movie definitely reaffirms after she leaves that like, and so fucking witches, man, they're bad news. Watch out.
Yeah. I think we haven't really spoken about what the censorship stuff looks like in Mexico at this time. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something along those lines, especially with Gustavo dying at the end. And I think it's also just kind of a have your cake and eat it too, of wanting to use witches in this brew, and also wanting it to be a revenge story.
I think it probably falls back into that like certain category of horror that's sort of the like watch, you know, you best watch yourself kind of horror, where it's like, yeah, you know, maybe witches are bad, but like
you don't fuck with them.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you know, Eduardo's mistake here was like being a bad person and doing this murder because he didn't realize that his housekeeper was a witch and therefore he came to a bad end. Right. It's the kind of like when the monster goes after bad people.
Yeah.
Kind of horror.
100%. You ready to move on to ranking?
Yeah, I think I would just say that this is derivative, but largely inoffensive and occasionally enjoyable, and it's 76 minutes.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time with ranking this.
Oh, I had a very easy time.
Okay, well, hopefully your easy time fits within my hard time so that we, things work out. I had a really hard time with this because of that mix of this is all just stuff we've seen before. This is very derivative. The script's not very good, but on a filmmaking level, it's quite clever and unique and fun, even if it is obviously very cheap. That put me in a hard place. The first thing I did was I looked at where are all the movies it's ripping off? It should probably go below those, right? So I think the lowest ranked out of them is Orlok's Honda, which is at 166. So I knew we'd be going, at least I'd be going lower than that. It is interesting to see how many of these cheap horror movies of this era have really latched on copying Eyes Without a Face over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, I mean, that speaks to how influential it was.
Mm-hmm.
Also because of the way that this movie did kind of a 180-degree turn into Mad Scientist, but the beginning felt very reminiscent of the movie we just watched.
Mm-hmm. Terrible Secret of Dr. Hitchcock?
Yeah, Dr. Hitchcock, which made a shit ton of money in... It was Spain. No, it was Italy.
Yeah.
So I wonder if part of the cheapness of this... No, wait, that would make sense because it was produced in 1960.
Okay, so you actually have hit on a little conspiracy thing that I ended up falling down a rabbit hole about because after watching this and seeing wow, this is very much Horrible Secret of Dr. Hitchcock mixed with Eyes Without a Face, I was when did Eyes Without a Face come out? Because then I was is the reason Alameda Films insisting this movie was made in 1960 so that they can retroactively make it earlier than the movies it's ripping off, so that they could make some argument that no, it wasn't ripping off those movies, it's the original. But then I found that Eyes Without a Face came out in 1960, so it still could have been influenced by that, and the elements of Horrible Secret of Dr. Hitchcock that it's ripping off are really just from Rebecca, and that came out in 1940, and Rebecca's really just Jane Eyre. So yeah, I don't think that's what's going on, but for a moment I was wait, is that the game we're playing?
Rebecca is not just Jane Eyre.
It's not, but you get what I'm trying to say.
I do hear you. Mm-hmm. I do hear you. I just needed to make that declaration. Okay, where were you looking?
So I started looking down from 166, and where I was looking was, when do the movies start to feel really derivative? And the highest point I reached was 193, Return of the Fly. And then I started looking down from there. There is some really good stuff below that as well. Stuff like Invaders from Mars or The Bat, Mark
Dark
of the
Eyes
Vampire.
Of London.
Yeah, stuff that's maybe not the best stuff, but has its own appeal. So then I was looking for, okay, at what point do the movies get bad? Because I don't think this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's derivative, but it's not bad, right? My eyes did go to The Cursed Palace, I think, 212, the Egyptian film, which was also super derivative in a lot of ways. But where I ended up for a floor was 231, below Mr. Sardonicus and above The Brute Man. Because once you start getting into those Rondo Hatton movies and you're looking at that or House of Horrors or Mad Made Monster, it was okay, this is kind of where the movies start being bad. So that was my range, was 193 to 231.
I have bad news.
You're nowhere near here, eh?
I'm not in your range at all.
Okay.
So I first thought to look at where the other Urueta movies are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's La Bruja from 1954. We covered that in episode 171. If you remember, that's the one with the night court.
Mm-hmm.
That's ranked at number 159. And then immediately below that is El Monstruo Resucitado from 1953. We covered that in episode 167.
That's Frankenstein Luchadors, right?
Essentially, yeah. And that's 160. You liked La Bruja more than I did. I really liked Espejo much better.
Hmm.
So I started looking above La Bruja, kind of made that my floor. But as I looked up, my eyes kind of came to some other movies that had that kind of like ghost revenge vibe, still being a little derivative. And I came to 137, Tormented. So that's, it's like a lighthouse. Dude kills his wife. She begins haunting him. And ends up eventually like he falls to his death. And they end up, it's really good. It's also really fucking cheap. But I think it handles the ghost haunting for revenge story a little bit better than Espejo, but I was like, this feels like comparable. Right below that is the Yatsura Kaiden that has the handsome actor.
Right, yeah.
Like he was like a matinee star. And so that movie is also like a ghost haunting. Yatsura Kaiden's also, I don't want to call it derivative, but it gets made quite a lot.
Yes.
And that movie, it struggled a little bit with the haunting, and it didn't really go as far. And so I was thinking about the way that it handled the special effects, like the gore and things. And I was like, maybe this feels right. So basically my range is 137 to 159.
So I think the tough thing for me here is I don't think this should go above the original Orlac's Hands of Orlac at 166. And honestly, I think a lot of the movies above La Bruja are very quickly like better movies than this are. Like, I don't think like this versus Dr. Orloff, the Jess Franco movie that was also guys stealing women for experiment reasons. Like, I think this is like a fun little diversion for an hour and 10 minutes. It's a nice little spoopy fun time. It's not actively bad. It's tough because
I hear you.
La Bruja has a very confused plot line. It's a little all over the place. So I kind of don't want to go as high as all this, but I can still stay pretty high. Your floor was La Bruja at 159, right? So the midpoint between your floor and my ceiling becomes 176, which is The Man with 9 Lives, which is another one of those Boris Karloff mad scientist movies, which is sandwiched between the 1935 version of The Raven, which had Karloff and Lugosi, and the original version of Student of Prague.
So I think what's happening here, as I look into the items that are in like the high 70s and low 80s, is I think I really liked the haunting portion of Espejo, and that's kind of clouding my judgment a little bit.
It's the Gothic horror bias, right?
Yeah,
that's what's happening, is like you really liked the Gothic horror element.
Because I see at 179 is Dr. X, at 181 is Phantom of the Rue Morgue, below that is Murders in the Rue Morgue. I don't agree with the past self, my past version of self, with putting Espejo above those. So what was your ceiling again?
My ceiling was 193, which was Return of the Fly. I didn't think we'd go higher. I didn't want to go much higher than that. But honestly, I could be talked up from there. I was just kind of looking for like, when do the movies start to feel derivative? As being my ceiling. But I could certainly be talked up.
Yeah, some big movies to point out here. It's big to me. The Alligator People, right above that. Experimenting on people. That movie's really fucking good. I don't care what people say. Also in here is Zombies of Moratau. Of course, we have Dracula's Daughter, and 13 Ghosts. So... Is Invaders from Mars the one that was 3D?
It's the one where it's the kid and they run through the tunnels for a long time in the end. And it has the weird color. And then he wakes up and it was a dream at the end.
But I'm pretty sure that it was shot in 3D, right?
Yes, it's the 3D is a little weird is what it is. It's like they shot it in 3D and didn't show it in 3D or something. There's something weird about the filmmaking process on that one. Yeah.
So I think that between that, like filming in 3D, filming in Technicolor, and then also like they had a lot more like special effects in the set design.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that kind of bumps Invaders from Mars above Espejo.
You see kind of how I ran into difficulty here.
Yeah, no, I do see. I wasn't a huge fan of The Hand of the Devil at 196. Like, Tenure was great, but it was also kind of like not as scary as you kind of wanted movie to be.
Absolutely agreed.
And what was Vampire's Ghost at 9?
Vampire's Ghost. Oh, that's 1945.
Oh, is this is in the jungle?
Yes, this
Vampire in West African plantation town.
Yeah, this is okay. Vampire's Ghost isn't good.
Like, it's fine. I feel like let's put Espejo below Invaders from Mars, but above Vampire's Ghost.
Okay, I'm okay with that. This was just a tough movie to rank for me.
Yeah. And hey, it's good to be aware of your own biases around Gothic shit.
Yeah.
I thought I was aware, but I didn't realize how much it was heavily weighting this movie that was fun.
Yeah.
But did not need to go that high.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think this is okay. Okay, so entering the list at the new number 195 is El Espejo de la Bruja from 1962, directed by Chano Urueta.
If you would like to see this list, you can go to our website, screamscenepodcast.com. There you can find links to the many episodes that we have mentioned today, as well as our appeals box. If you would like to contest this or any other ranking, you can drop us a line through our Ask box on Tumblr. You can reach out over email at screamscenepodcast@gmail.com or talk to us over Blue Sky or Patreon.
That's right. So go buy the Mexican Macabre box set that this came in so that you can help keep physical media alive.
Yeah.
And then once you've put money into Indicator's pockets, you can watch this for yourself and go, Sarah and Ben were way off base, and send us an appeal, and then we'll deal with it when it comes to us. But first, buy some Blu-rays. Scream Scene updates every other Wednesday on SoundCloud and a variety of other podcasting apps. If you want to make sure that you never miss an episode, you can subscribe to our RSS feed. If you like the show, tell a friend about it, tell a coworker about it, tell someone on the bus about it, or share it on social media, which is kind of the digital equivalent of telling someone on the bus about it. If you really like the show, you can help us out a lot by heading on over to patreon.com/screamscenepodcast, where you can become a patron of the night for as little as $1 a month. At $5 and $10 a month, you get access to regular bonus content. There's a huge amount of bonus content already on there from years past. We've been doing this a long time. There's always cool stuff coming. Sarah's got another audiobook horror story on the go that's going to be showing up there eventually. So if you really like what we do, head on over to patreon.com/screamscenepodcast.
So Ben, what are we watching next week?
Next week, Sarah, we are watching a movie we've been looking forward to for a long time. It's Carnival of Souls.
Ooh! Yay! It has been a long time.
Yes. So this is, the well-known cult classic. Got onto the Criterion collection even. Carnival of Souls. So I am looking forward to watching that and discussing it with you next time. So we will see you next week, Creatures of the Night.
Bye.
Bye.